What's up, everyone? This is the Finta Fútbol podcast. My name is Ruben, and we're back, the second episode, accompanied by Anthony here. What's
Hey,
up, bro?
how's it going? What's up?
Hope everyone enjoyed their weekend, had a good weekend. It's Monday, and now we're ready to do a little recap of this weekend's action. How was your weekend, bro?
It was a good weekend. Really productive. It was nice. Watched a little bit of soccer.
Nice.
So.
There you go. Yeah, same. So there was a lot of soccer action this weekend. But before we get into that, just wanted to thank everyone for listening to the podcast last week. We got a lot of good feedback and insight from that. So we appreciate that. Let's get ready to. There was so much action, so I just decided to do I did some talking points from it. So we'll just go ahead and start there.
All right.
And yeah, if you have like any questions, comments from the games, you're welcome to chime in.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest one that I had highlighted was that North London derby.
Yeah.
From the Premier League in England. They call rivalries in soccer derbies.
They call them derbies?
Yeah, so it's a rivalry. They call them a derby. And this was a really big one. It's two teams from North London. They hate each other. And one of them's my favorite team, Arsenal, the Gunners. They faced off Tottenham Hotspur, who were in really good form going into this game. Mm-hmm. Tottenham came up with the dub, 2-0. Arsenal was coming into the game really in bad form in the league. So, and Tottenham was on the other side of that. They were in first place.
They're like trending up.
Yeah, they're really good. They got a stacked squad. Mm-hmm. Mourinho just has them looking really good. But let's just go in towards the insight of what I thought. So going into the game, like I said, I was pretty nervous just because Arsenal's my squad and it's a really big game.
Yeah.
So they actually looked really good, lively in the first 10 minutes. They were attacking. They had possession. They were in their side of the field most of the time. So I was pretty stoked. They were creating chances. I was like, all right. Arsenal came out looking good, and they just did the typical Mourinho. They got them on a counterattack in the 12th minute. Mm-hmm. Absolute banger. It was absolute banger. Not gonna lie, the goal was really good by Tottenham's Heung-min Son. They caught Arsenal. Like I said, Arsenal was attacking, and they caught him on a counterattack, and just from 25 yards out, just curled it in top right, just golazo. Honestly, there was not much he could have done with that.
Son's been really red hot, dude. Son, as of late.
So it was funny. Son has he actually has 10 goals in the league, which is how much Arsenal has as a whole team. So that's pretty embarrassing, And one player is carrying the load for them, and he's been on a tear, he's balling.
And is it just this year? Because I haven't really heard him before this year.
He definitely this year last year he broke out, but this year he's
on a different level.
Yeah, he's on a whole different level. Him and Harry Kane, their other striker, are the dynamic duo right now in Europe across all the leagues. They're probably in the hottest form.
Yeah.
And they just complement each other so well because Harry Kane's a big target forward, number 9 they call him. Mm-hmm. So he holds up the play, he back to goal, and then Son just runs off him. He's fucking fast,
athletic as hell.
So he just literally just sends him through. He's in on goal, and that's how they score most of their goals is on counterattacks. But and then so it was 1-0 early. They got that goal. It was pretty. Like I said, Arsenal was looking good, and that kind of just put, a dagger in them. It was still early, but you could tell right away, especially the form they were coming off of.
Yeah.
It was just it's going to be another one of those days for Arsenal.
Arsenal was applying pressure for sure.
They were. But like I said, Arsenal, to speak a little bit on them, it's been really hard for them these last couple of weeks. It's a team that's in a rebuilding phase. And they just haven't gotten in form. They're struggling to score. I think it's been over 600 minutes of play without a goal, and that's saying something because they got Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who was actually the top scorer in the league these last 2 seasons with them. So that's saying if he can't score, then like they're having trouble. You know, they just can't create.
Do you think it's like a coaching thing or?
I think so. The tactics. I mean, there's just no fluidity within there's no build up play.
Okay.
The only thing that you could really tell is a lot of centers into the box, but that's not really working just because they don't have that target 9.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to the byline, the edge of the line, what you call it, and then they just put a center in. That's basically all they do, you know. And it's kind of hard to play like that. There's no build up play from the middle, you know, connecting, you know, triangles, walls they call them, 1-2s. It's just once they get to the attacking third, it's kind of like they'd lose their imagination, you know.
So it's like they have the talent necessarily, but they're like getting held back.
Yeah, they definitely have the talent. It's just, you know, every team goes through forms and slumps, and I just think they're in quite a bit of a slump right now.
Okay.
But it's still early in the season. I mean, they are sitting with this loss. It puts them in 15th place now. They've lost 6 of their first 11 games. And they just can't seem to connect in the league. And on the other hand, that win put Tottenham up into first, tied in first with they're now tied in first with Liverpool. So Tottenham's playing really well.
And Liverpool had a big win.
Yeah. Liverpool. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about them later on. But like I said, that's from Arsenal's side. I think from Mourinho and Tottenham's side, it was just a typical Mourinho tactical matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly how he likes to play. You know, he's more of a defensive minded guy, and the fact that he sets the shape of his team to be like really solid defensively, a solid defensive shape with the solid back four, solid 2 holding midfielders. And then, like I said, with the forwards up top, they just hit you on the counter, you know? So it's his typical lineup. He doesn't mind having the ball at all. He'd rather the other team have the ball and then him get it on a counter attack. And that's exactly how they scored both goals, actually. Because, I mean, Arsenal dominated possession pretty much the entire first half. And they just hit them with those two counterattacks, and that was it. So, Tottenham got those 2 goals in the first half. Like they got the first one early, and then just on the edge of halftime, 45th minute, they got the second. 2-0 going into halftime.
And they just rode that.
Yeah. Second half, it was just kind of in the midfield, you know. Arsenal was trying to attack, but like I said, they just really couldn't create much, you know. They never really looked like a danger, like a threat. Like I said, Tottenham just stood their shape well and rode the game out, and they got the win.
So like something that happens in like basketball, like when like a team's kind of struggling or like doing bad, it's like a kind of like not necessarily tank, but it's like a start rebuilding for next season. Is that like a situation that's common, or they just
in soccer? No, in soccer, no, because they don't have like the reason to tank. You know how in basketball they tank because they get the draft.
Yeah,
it's not like that in soccer. You don't get a star that's coming up next. You know, so there's no tank. They really gotta write it out, and it's tough because the Premier League's in my opinion, it's the hardest league in the world.
There's like no days off.
There's literally no days off. Every game is like it's gonna be a battle. There's no easy matchup in the Premier League, just because it's so tough, rugged.
Yeah.
Like those English, the way they play is just every game you're gonna come all out.
It sucks if you're struggling.
Yeah, so it definitely sucks if you're struggling. So either when they're struggling, they either go one or 2 ways. They sack the manager, which means they fire him. They call it sack over there. Yeah, it's kind of funny. They sack the manager, or there's a transfer window and midway through the season. So if anything, they try to like get a couple players in, you know. That's probably the couple options they have if you're having a bad year.
What option do you think's most likely?
For Arsenal, I mean, Arsenal's it's a weird club because they're big in the fact that their history is really rich. They have a rich history, and recently though, like the past decade, it's just been downhill. You know, they're living off the history.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, there's not the support from the board isn't there. Like, they're sponsored by Fly Emirates, the airline. So there's a lot of money. They definitely have money to spend. It's just, I feel like the ownership group doesn't want to like fully invest in the squad because they have the financial means. Like, for example, Manchester City, Chelsea, PSG, they invest so much money into their squads and look where they are. I mean, if we could just invest that same amount of money into our players, into buying solid players, I think we'd be one of the biggest clubs easily in the world. Because we were back then, you know?
I mean, you guys are historic.
So I don't see, it's definitely a historic club.
Yeah.
It's definitely a historic club. I mean, back with the likes of Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, the Invincibles that I was telling you about, that team that went undefeated the whole Premier League back then with the legendary manager Arsene Wenger. Definitely the history is definitely there. The fan base is there. You know, the fans are so loyal.
It's like a team you'd actually want to play with.
Guys still say, you know, I want to play with Arsenal, but now it's just hard because they're doing so bad and they've been doing so bad, you know. And I feel like we get content because so last year they won the FA Cup, which is like a little tournament they do on the side between every league and domestically.
Yeah.
So there's like 4 divisions in the England soccer pyramid. So they get teams from all of those leagues and they have a tournament. And FA Cup is a pretty big tournament, and Arsenal is historically they've won the most titles in that FA Cup. So they won that last year, towards the end of last year, which was was a big sign. You know, everyone was hopeful. There's like, this team could play. Then we had the new manager. But then again, they just go back to not being consistent. Like now they're sitting in 15th place after winning a FA Cup. It's just the consistency is not there, and that's what drives like the fans crazy. You know? It's
so
hard.
It's like, is that more of like an add-on trophy to like the entire season?
Yeah.
So it's just like they kind of get this little prize.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, with just like kind of
they're
coasting.
content with it, you know? Okay. So it's kind of like a little side. It's not a big trophy, but it is. If you win it, you're definitely proud of it, you know?
But you'd want them as professionals to be like more hungrier for the bigger prize.
Yeah. I mean, you just won the FA Cup, then you got your fans
it's like keep
saying,
that momentum.
Keep that momentum going into this year. And we started out good. We started off in this and then just going down, you know, it's hard.
Yeah.
They're just not consistent, and that's what drives the fans crazy. They just want to see some consistency. And like I said, it's been almost over 600 minutes without a goal. Like, and we got one of the best strikers in the world.
Like top. Team morale. That's just got to start going down.
It's just going down for sure. I mean, we'll see. It's still early in the year. And the good thing is that although they're sitting in the 15th spot, they are only 5 points away from getting back into the top 5, you know? So it's definitely worrisome, but I feel like it's still early. Hopefully we could pick it back up and get some wins in the league.
Actually I'm kind of checking it out in the standings right here. It's still pretty close in the middle.
It's crazy because 15th spot is far away from the top, but it only like 6 points separate. That's 2 wins.
The distribution is crazy. Like Tottenham is like pretty far up there.
That's what I'm saying. The Premier League is so tough because it's just everyone's there. Yeah, it's competitive. It's really competitive. So hopefully we get to work in the train. You know, they find some solutions because it's bad, man. As a fan, like. Losing to Tottenham, especially, like you don't. That's the worst thing. You know, it's like Lakers, Celtics. You know, you don't want to lose to them, and then they have the bragging rights till the next game. Especially how they're playing right now. They're in first place, and I'm telling you,
it sucks even more when your rival is like at the top.
Yeah, exactly. So they're balling right now. So yeah, it hurt. That one hurt for sure. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, that was probably the biggest game of the weekend across Europe. So I wanted to get cover that one a lot.
Okay. And do they play each other at all?
Yeah, they play each other one more time.
Okay.
So each team faces each other twice. So hopefully we get revenge with them. But yeah, the second now some other talking points I just want to throw in there real quick from some other leagues was in Germany, Bayern Munich and Red Bull Leipzig. They served up a treat in that game. a 3-3 game, just back and forth, action packed, like
Pretty high scoring.
Yeah, like 3-3 is like, I mean, defensively, it's probably not good for the defenders, but well, I mean, if you're a fan of attacking soccer, then that was a game to watch. I didn't get to watch it, but I saw the highlights and 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, it's just back and forth.
Yeah, I feel like the more like a casual fan, like that's definitely the type of game you want to watch.
Sure, yeah, high scoring games, definitely. If it's like your first time going to a game, you definitely want to just see goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun one. I mean, Bayern Munich is Bayern Munich. They're the strongest team in Germany, probably in the world right now. Red Bull Leipzig though is they're an interesting story because they literally just got promoted like I want to say a couple years ago, and they've been consistently like really good. Like last year, they were in the semifinals for Champions League.
You were saying that was kind of like a dark horse.
Yeah, the dark horse. Champions. They had a really good striker. They sold him to Chelsea, but I mean, they still play really good soccer. And their coach is one of the youngest coaches in all Europe. He's like they're like in his 30s. Yeah, he's like in his 30s. So with like being a man, he has players. There's players out there that are older than him. So
That's crazy.
But he's just like one of those like tactical geniuses, who knows it all.
Was he a player as well?
I'm not sure actually. I wouldn't doubt it, maybe a little, but it just didn't work. So, there's guys like that who for whatever reason it doesn't work out for them, like soccer wise.
Soccer.
And they're just geniuses. Like, Jose Mourinho, for example, he's probably the best manager, one of the best managers historically. He was never a good player.
Huh.
I don't even think he played that high level of soccer, but he's one of the greatest managers in the history of soccer now.
Just tactically
just
smart.
Tactically a genius. So yeah, it'll be there's guys like that for sure. But yeah, that definitely. If you didn't watch the highlights on that one. That one was a fun one. Liverpool, like we said earlier, they racked up another big win against a really good team, the Wolves. They're a good solid side, and Liverpool smashed them 4-0.
Yeah.
So that's saying a lot about Liverpool's just how big of a team they are now. Just to establish themselves as that with injuries, with players out, with like COVID and stuff, they're still racking up wins. Big wins.
Dominated. Yeah.
Just dominating, yeah. So Liverpool's definitely established themselves as a big team. And I think a lot of that is a merit to their manager, Jurgen Klopp. He's probably one of the best managers in the world right now. Just one of those guys who just infuses that energy. Like you could just by seeing him, he's one of those guys that are energetic,
And what does it do for the team to have someone like Salah like on the field?
Oh, dude, Salah.
Like, is it just like pick everyone else up like to a different level?
No, Liverpool's front three has been with Mane, Firmino, and Salah. That's probably one of the best the best trios you could have in soccer. Yeah. You got Mane and Salah who offer that speed, and then you got Firmino in the middle, just holding up play, and then they're just running off him with that speed. It's
just as a defense, it's just like...
and that's crazy because their best defender, who is also probably the top defender in the world, Virgil van Dijk, tore his ACL.
Really?
So he's out. They're actually without their best defender, and they got a defensive mid who's playing as a center back right now, and Fabinho. He's usually a defensive mid, and he's playing as a center back. So that just goes to that's what I'm saying is they're filling out guys. They got youngsters coming from the academy, 18, 17-year-olds filling in, and they're still picking up wins. I mean, that just goes to that culture, that winning culture that he's established there now. They're just on another level from everyone else.
I mean, Liverpool, that's another team that's like, would you say they're a pretty like historically great team or club, right?
Dude, they're probably along with Manchester United, they're probably one of the biggest teams in England for sure. Yeah, it was crazy because this weekend was actually the first they allowed fans back in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, only a limited amount. Yeah, it was like 2,500. But with
still a lot for right now.
Yeah, it is. Like the whole first sections were filled, but you could tell like with Liverpool especially, their fan base, they say like that stadium is probably the hardest stadium to play in.
Really?
Yeah. Just because they're so crazy, they're so wild,
and those stands are like towering, like everyone's stacked on each other.
Yeah, they're just like up, and then it's just so Yeah, it actually was pretty cool to see how they were singing. They have a chant, and like they were welcoming them out. They started clapping. It was fun to see the fans back in for sure. Yeah, so Liverpool got that win. They're sitting on top of the table now. Man U came back. They were down 1-0, and they ended up winning 3-1. They're making that a habit too. I think the last 2-3 games they've come back from deficits. So I mean, Man U's. It's not fun. It's not easy to watch, but they're getting wins too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much from the Premier League that I had. A couple other ones are in Real Madrid picked up a nice win against Sevilla in Spain, 1-0 against a tough Sevilla side. Rivals Barca, they lost 2-1. They continue to struggle in La Liga. They're sitting, I think, pretty in 7th place now, like 12 points away from the leaders. So
Sheesh.
they're struggling. Yeah, for sure. Domestically here in the U.S., it was the playoffs. Playoffs are going on right now here. Columbus Crew beat the New England Revolution, which advanced them to the final. So that was a big win for Columbus. And on today actually is the other. So there's Eastern conferences. There's Eastern and Western conferences. So that Columbus Crew of New England was in their Eastern Conference semifinal. So Columbus will represent the East. And today, or right now, actually, as we speak, the Western Conference game's going on.
Oh.
Seattle Sounders are playing Minnesota United FC.
Okay.
So winner of that is going to face Columbus Crew in the MLS Cup final.
I always feel like the Sounders are always like favorites.
Yeah, Sounders have definitely established themselves as a big MLS team now over the past years.
So much that city has invested in that like culture.
Yeah, I have I know someone who's from out there, and he tells me how passionate they are. It's crazy, and like they'll it's like England over there. The fan base, they're that insane.
I mean, I feel like
I definitely want to watch this game and they play at CenturyLink. So imagine they sell out for the soccer games.
Yeah,
and CenturyLink is a huge field.
Like they've done the best in America as far as like building like a good soccer culture.
Yeah, for sure. No, they're probably. I'd say that they're the best franchise right now for sure in the MLS. Galaxy's probably the biggest just in terms of trophies. They've won 5, so they're the most winning team. But Seattle's on the rise for sure, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win this. They're definitely going to be recognized as a top team for sure now. But yeah, that's for the U.S. leagues. The youngsters, the youngsters from the national team. A couple of them got on the score sheet this weekend, so I thought that was pretty important. Weston McKennie with Juventus, he got on the board. He got a nice header in, helped them win 2-1. Christian Pulisic, just a little Weston. He's such a baller. I'm such a fan of him. Weston McKennie, keep an eye out for that guy. Solid player. And then obviously the star Pulisic for Chelsea. He didn't start, but he came on and scored a goal. That was big to see from him too. And then a youngster, 17-year-old Gio Reyna with Dortmund also got a goal. That he's gonna be fun. He's definitely gonna be a fun player. So I think it was important for those guys to get on the score sheet. All U.S. national team members. So the future is definitely bright.
It's looking good.
Playing for big teams in Europe and scoring is definitely a good sign for the national team, the U.S. national team.
And it's like something that hasn't been like a consistent staple in years.
And to see, I mean, think about it. Weston McKennie with Juventus, Christian Pulisic with Chelsea, Gio Reyna with Borussia Dortmund. Those are all big teams, man.
Yeah.
Playing in at high levels like that is like that's proud. That's
something
to
be
legitimizes
like American players.
And never seen that. So it's crazy to see. Like the future is definitely bright for the U.S. national team for sure. And from the Mexico side, Chucky Lozano, one of my favorite players. He scored in his in Italy in the Italian league. He helped his team. They won 4-0. It's pretty easy win, but he got on the score sheet too. So that was one to look out for in the Mexican international. Chucky Lozano, fan favorite for sure. And then and going down to Mexico, it was also the playoffs. So it's interesting because U.S. and Mexico do playoff format. You don't really see that in Europe. It's just whoever wins the first place wins the league. There's no playoffs. And here's like one of the few places where they do playoffs. I personally I enjoy playoffs because so this is a crazy the crazy game of this weekend. They do 2 legs, so they play one home game and one away.
Oh,
you know?
Okay, so it's like evenly matched.
It's 2 legs, yeah. And the first legs were last midweek, Wednesday and Thursday. And the big talking was Cruz Azul Pumas game. Cruz Azul had won the first leg 4-0. All right, 4-0. Smashed them. You know how it's over. So going into Sunday, the second leg, everyone's they're going through.
Do you feel gassed on days going back to backs? Do you think?
Well, it's so they play Wednesday, then they play Saturday. Whoever plays Thursday plays Sunday. So I mean, they get pretty good adequate rest. You know, they're soccer players. They're fit enough.
You guys are conditioned amazingly.
Yeah. So I don't think that has to do much with it. I think it's more like of a tactical, like a chess game.
Okay.
To see how you want to plant your first game. Most just want to get that 0-0 draw. Yeah. And then play it all out in the second game. But this was crazy because, like I said, Cruz Azul won the first game 4-0, and going into the second game, everyone was like, they're through. They're in the final.
Yeah.
Pumas wins 4-0.
Really?
They came back. They came back, and so it's tied. They call it aggregate. So the aggregate was 4-4, which usually you go into penalties or overtime. But in Mexico, the team that sits higher in the standings advance.
Really? Just automatically?
Yeah, just automatically. Oh. I'm not a fan of that either, to be honest.
I mean, I guess.
But, man, from being 4-0 to coming back, like no one saw that coming at all. That was a big, big talking point from this weekend. And yeah, Pumas really did it. They came back, won 4-0, and now they're in the final.
Sheesh.
Yeah, and it's just bad luck for Cruz Azul. I feel so bad for the fans because it's been like 25 years since they've won a major trophy, and this always happens to them. So they'll be up and they just tank. Like they can't win. They can't see it through, and it's been happening for years. Like I seriously feel bad for them. And on
just
the other,
crushing.
For real. And on the other side, it was León who beat Chivas to advance to the final. They tied the first game 1-1. And then the second game, it was 1-0. León won that one.
Okay.
So going into the final, it's going to be León versus Pumas. I'd say just a little preview for that one. I'd say León is probably the favorite just because they were the more consistent team throughout the course of the league. They finished with 42 points, which is highly unheard of, especially in the Mexican league. They've just been super consistent for like the past 2 years under their coach. They just have a solid team. I think they're the favorite in my opinion, but it should be good. It should be a fun final as well in Mexico. So yeah, that's this weekend. So we'll see how that goes. We'll cover that next week.
Okay. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So PSG, they won this week 3-1. Mbappe, I think scored like a historic goal, like for his age, like amount of goals he scored.
Like the youngest one. No? Yeah.
Where does where's that French league kind of fit in with all the other leagues, like as far as like competition?
They kind of joke around with it. They call it the Farmers League.
So it's like just kind of a cast-off league.
Yeah, because the competition they say isn't that great. To be honest, because I mean PSG's always running away with that thing.
Yeah, I mean that's what it looks like in the standings.
Yeah,
like
they have won. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure they've won that title like the last like several seasons.
So does it hurt Mbappe's legacy if he stays with PSG? Basically,
I mean it depends. For me, he has to win the champion. They have to win the Champions League. I feel like for PSG, if they have to set their sights on higher things now, just because the French league is so easy for them.
It's like those you kind of dismiss those.
Yeah, not easy, but they're always running away with it.
Doesn't hold
there's not so it doesn't hold that prestige. So they're, especially for them, they want that Champions League. That's their goal at the end of the day. Once they win that, now they can solidify them. But I mean, just by going off the French league, It's just not, you know, the competition's probably not that great. But yeah, that's for but PSG always runs away with that. And so let's just to finish off some other ones across the 5 leagues of Europe. In Italy, the Serie A, AC Milan got a 2-1 win over Sampdoria, which now sees them 5 points clear. 5 points clear. They're sitting in first. And this is without Zlatan. Zlatan got injured.
Yeah.
So they're playing good soccer without him, which is really good. I mean, the question now just for Milan is if they can keep that form going, you know. Last time they won the league was in 2011. So
it's been a minute.
It'll be great to see them win again just because they're such a big team. And then sitting behind them is their rivals Inter Milan, who won. They got a big win. Lukaku and Hakimi got 2 goals. So they're sitting in second, 5 points back, but I mean, it's still early. Then the top 4 is around Napoli. Like I said, Chucky Lozano got a goal in there, Mexican international. They won 4-0. And then in 4th, Juventus. It's kind of weird to see Juventus in 4th just because they've for the past 9 years, they've always dominated that league. You're just used to seeing them in first place all the time. I mean, with COVID and everything, it's been weird because Cristiano was out.
Yeah.
And during the time he was out, and it was like a run of 3 games, I think they got like no points out of him. So they would either lose or draw. And now he's back, so they're doing better. But it's crazy to see how much of an impact the player could have, you know.
I mean,
Ronaldo definitely holds. Ronaldo definitely holds that.
That'll be interesting to see
the presence. Yeah.
That game they have against Barcelona coming
up. Yeah. So yeah, just to finish off that this weekend. This week, midweek, it's gonna be that matchup of Juve versus Barca in the Champions League, which sees Messi and Ronaldo clashing again.
Yeah.
So that's the big talking point this week.
You got
those 2 guys are back.
Prediction?
I mean, Barca hasn't lost in the Champions League. They're undefeated. So it's kind of vice their league. They're doing really bad, and in the Champions League, they're they can't lose. So, I'm gonna have to go with Barca just because I'm a fan, you know.
Okay.
But it should be a good game. I'll say 2-1 Barca.
Yeah.
Both Messi and Ronaldo are gonna get on the score sheet. But it's gonna be fun to watch those guys back on the same field again, competing. This last there's always that debate about who's the GOAT between Messi and Ronaldo. Yeah. And I always used to get really fired up on that just because I'm a big Messi guy. But like growing up, just becoming more mature, learning more about soccer, you really can't compare 2 legends like that.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think we had this conversation 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and I started looking up a lot of greatest players list.
Yeah.
I think there's a consensus. Messi was ranked ahead of Ronaldo in all of them. There's a couple that were really
I think a
far.
lot lean towards Messi just because he shouldn't, as a 5'6" guy, he shouldn't be that good. So he's just naturally
amazing with the ball.
They call him, he's like not human. They say he's not human, you know. But you just can't really compare those 2 guys. They're both legends. They're both great in their own way. They've both pushed each other to be the players they are. Always competing every year. The last decade, they've scoring 50 goals a year, just constantly pushing each other.
Yeah, it's almost like instead of thinking like, all right, well, who's better? It's just like appreciate. Greatness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they asked both managers that question, and they said the same thing. They're like, you can't compare them. Just admire that they're still here playing. You know,
exactly.
Don't compare them. Just
appreciate it while
appreciate it. Yeah, because they're gone, and then you're never gonna. Those are ones in a lifetime.
Especially
players.
Their style.
Yeah,
it's like
they're so different yet they're unique.
Yeah.
Like Cristiano's a freak athlete. Jump out of the building, out of the state, literally. Messi just dribbled through the whole team. It's what they can do. They offer so much. And they've said that. They both said that both that one of them, both of them, they drive each other, you know?
Yeah.
So they see Ronaldo scoring and that, I want to score, you know? They're just constantly pushing each other.
There's no animosity.
Exactly. No.
There's like a story is like Ronaldo's kid watches Messi YouTube videos or highlight videos, and they asked him about it, and Ronaldo's like, no, my son watches videos of great players. That's what he should do.
And then I think Messi's kid too, he's a fan of Ronaldo, and it's just it's respect. He's a great player. So yeah, that should be fun. Two legends going at it, and they're towards their end, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like this time where you're like, they're really going. It's towards the end, man. It's been so fun to watch them, and then just to realize that they're at towards their end is kind of.
I kind of wish I would have gone to soccer when I was younger, so I could have seen their rise,
bro.
You know,
it was something else, man.
Yeah, same as Zlatan. Like, I wish I would have seen their rise. Like, I know he's like just as good now as he was when he was younger, but like,
but imagine you seen him in their prime. It was something else for sure. But yeah, that should be the fun game this week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for what I had to say. I'm summarizing this weekend's big talking points in soccer. Just a preview for next week. We're trying to get our first guest on, so stay tuned for that to see who it is. We'll probably announce that on our page or something. So stay tuned with that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning into the second podcast where we really talked about a lot of games. Thought it was fun. But yeah, that was it for me. So I appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you guys next time.